Hello, everyone. Welcome into another episode of Capturing the Games, the Game Within the Game podcast featuring me, your co host, Desmond Jones. Unfortunately, today my other co host is now going to make it today, but that's okay. We still got another fantastic episode lined up. Uh, but before we get into the episode, I want to remind everyone that Capturing the Game is sponsored by Capture Sports Agency, where its CEO and founder is Shanta Smith Jones. Now that the introduction is out the way, let me go ahead and introduce you to this wonderful, fantastic guest. It was previously at ESPN and worked on a couple of Dairy for 30s and also worked for the NFL Films. She is yours truly, Taylor Barfield. Taylor, how are you doing today?
Hello, I'm great. Thank you for that great introduction.
Of course, of course. Thank you for hopping on a podcast with us and recording, this with us on a Sunday. It's normally Sunday. I always look at Sunday as like a family day. You have a nice little family dinner, just a nice little sit down time. So I just appreciate
Definitely.
you hopping on and recording a podcast with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. But yeah, can you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, I am a media and business consultant. I help athletes, former athletes, their families, friends, everyone, business entities, government entities, everyone build their brand, create content, produce live events, and more. I'm also a professor, so I get to teach everything that I've learned in the industry. I teach communications, technology, and business courses.
That's dope. So, I want to ask, I was gonna say this for the end, but I'm curious for now because just for my own career. But what made you get into being a professor?
Sure. So I actually moved back to the DMV after living in New York City. And one of the things that happened as soon as I moved back is some of my professors from college actually reach out and they were just like, hey, a few of them had moved around to different colleges in the area. And they were like, we saw that you came back. We wanted to see if you'd be willing to kind of share your expertise with some of the students that we teach. And it ended up being like a variety of different courses and I love it. I get to give back in a way that I never knew that was a lane for me. So it's just really fun because I remember being a student in the classroom and not realizing that I had a network available to me or not knowing how to tap into that network. So I get to really just help students who are not too much younger than myself really break into the field and guide them in a way that's really unique. And a lot of professors that I had when I was in college, they were a lot older and they had connections, but it was just like a very different, it was a more like stoic approach to teaching. But for me, I just love to be able to give that helping hand to people. And it's been really fulfilling for me.
No, it definitely sounds like it has been fulfilling for you. The reason why I asked that question was because, like, one of the things I want to do, hopefully in the near future, is become a professor. So I'm an engineer by trade. So I'm all over the place. I can do engineering, I can talk sports with you, whatever the case might be. But one thing, because my biggest thing for me was when I was going through my courses and going through everything, I never saw another professor that looked like me. And
Mhm.
so I always want to be the one to kind of stand in that gap, like just to show students that are pursuing this career that there are people out in your field that looks like you.
Mhm. Definitely. And I totally agree. See, I went to an HBCU, so I had the unique perspective of having all of my teachers look like me. But I went to Bowie State University, and with going to a smaller HBCU, a lot of the bigger HBCUs, which I'm sure you might realize or you might have noticed out, they are the ones who get a lot of the help and assistance and the spotlights and the programs, the pipelines. They're all developed for the bigger HBCUs, which is great. But there's only a small percentage of students that actually go to those few schools that are highlighted all the time. So I had teachers that really cared about my matriculation through college, and I was lucky, but the network, the pipeline, all of those things weren't developed in the same way. So we are the small little HBCU that's next to Howard University. So we always have to fight a little bit more for those opportunities, which has been a bit it's been a bit of a challenge, but I think it's so rewarding and fulfilling to be where I'm at in my career because of the unique situation that I had when I was in college.
No, that's crazy. I didn't even realize how close your school was to Howard, because that's also, I'm sure that you always had to compete for
Oh yeah.
everything
I
down
mean,
there.
it was only 30 minutes up the road. So like we were, I mean, less than 30 minutes really. We're very close to DC. So it was just it was interesting. Like I mean, like the schools are like rivals for parties and stuff like that, but on a bigger scale when it comes to like careers and opportunities, the bigger schools are always going to get looked at, and that's with anything. But one of the things that I love to help my students with is just building those network connections, like just meeting people and being vocal about the things that you want. Because when you're vocal, you're able to, maybe they don't know what your school is, or maybe they don't know who your professor was, or they weren't taught by your specific professor, but you're able to just be able to connect with someone and network with them in a different way, which is very helpful and beneficial. Those network connections, I'm sure, as you know, are just as strong as your education and from some people's perspective.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And the networking is super, super key to almost everything. And you can have all the knowledge in the world you want, but if you don't
Mhm.
have a network behind it to kind of support it, what have you really done?
Definitely, definitely.
So what made you go into being a consultant?
So I was I love storytelling. One of the things that drew me to working at NFL Films and ESPN Films was the like telling the story behind an athlete. So growing up, I was actually a part of the Ray Lewis Foundation. So I had the unique opportunity to grow up and be alongside a lot of different generations of players. So I would be like a volunteer, but very close to the core of the organization. So I was always helping out at different events. Ray would have these things called Ray's Summer Days, and I would be with the family, like doing things with them all the time. And it was just so interesting to see their lives outside of the game. And that really shaped the way that I moved through my career. So once I realized that NFL Films was the group behind A Football Life and different things like that, I became so interested in finding out a way that I could tell the stories of the athletes that I grew up with. And it was, I mean, it was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. I enjoyed it so much. I got to work on Charles Haley's A Football Life and Terrell Owens' A Football Life and a bunch of other different shows that were on Nickelodeon, Showtime, just everything. It was just, I got to do a variety of things. I was what they considered a floater. So I was just a producer that didn't have a specific show. So every Monday we would all come down to the Sable Theater and talk through some of the things that we were working on and watch tape. And Tuesday we would also like watch down everything that we had worked on together. But it was like a moving, like you were always on the go, but I just kind of got my slate and just had to tap in for the week, which was just awesome. I love that fast-paced environment. But going back, storytelling was, just at the core. I just love that so much. So when I went to ESPN Films, we were looking back a bit farther with the 30 for 30s. The story that 30 for 30 ESPN Films tells, they're about athletes, or at least during my tenure there, were about athletes that had long since retired and were in different stages of their lives. And one of the things that really stuck with me was that the athletes had squandered their wealth or not managed their relationships appropriately, and there was just a lot of things that I felt I could help them with as a service. I was like, it doesn't have to be like this. It didn't have to, your reign, your career did not have to end on the field or on the court. It can continue to grow. You continue to manage your brand and continue to be successful at what you do. And I wanted to be able to find unique ways to help them. So with my company called Project Starfield, I bring in, I bring in people that are like that, I help them. I look for ways to support them, and whether it's like a restaurant or, just anything that they're working on, I'll help them sort of build the plan around some of the things that they're working on. So that's been to me like the most rewarding thing, because it's like everything in my life is kind of just brought up to this moment, which has been really fun to me.
No, I'm definitely glad that you explained all that. Look, we're here for the stories. So, capturing the game is all about capturing the stories of, athletes or just anybody in general of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes because, a lot of people may not know or may not have the insight of what's going on behind the scenes and stuff. So there's, more to life than just sports. And if you want to, people to learn about the careers or learn just about just get different advices about what's going on or what to do, what not to do. That's what our platform is about. So don't be afraid to tell your stories. We're here for the stories. I'm here to take notes
Definitely.
for your stories. So definitely thank you for sharing your story so far. But I was curious about your Project Starfield. So what and how'd you want to to start that. So now I got the inside scoop on that. So
Mhm. Definitely, definitely. So that has been, I didn't know. I feel like my steps have sort of just been falling into place as I've been on them. So I like, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, are you going to own your own business and be a consultant? I probably would be like, no, what? And then things just started coming together in a way that's been really, really rewarding for me, for sure.
yeah, I bet because I know like for me, my perspective, I if I would have made it to ESPN, I'm like, look, I'm at the pretty much at the top of what sports can, I say allowed or even stuff that you can do, retain your sports because ESPN has always been that brand that's been on top. But for you to decide to start your own consulting business and to do everything on your own, I mean, I'll say more power to you because you know that it takes a lot of courage and just a lot of motivation to want to do that.
Definitely. Yeah. And there's a lot of different areas at ESPN, but I really had like one of the roles where I was working like face to face with a lot of the athletes and the people around them. So I really did get a unique perspective of like what it's like life after. Not only that, a lot of the people that worked at ESPN were former athletes too. So, they had found success being a commentator or, just different things like that. So I did get a lot of, you know, awareness. I got a lot of an awareness when I was working there about like what their lives were after the game, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious about that, so now I'm gonna ask you about it. So, what's some of the
Mhm.
things that athletes either fear the most, or something that they are maybe not prepared for once they get done playing the game?
Definitely. So I think that a lot of the athletes have their own unique like, whether it's like a passion project or thing that they're interested in, and it's always like, I wanted to pursue this and I want to know how to make it successful. And they don't necessarily know how to get there because, once the game is over, they don't have like, when say you're a football player, you have like the Ravens have a communications team and different people that you can like bounce ideas off of, very lightly. But when you leave the game, you no longer have that network. You are out here just like everyone else trying to build your brand. You might have fans and followers and different things like that, but you don't know how to tap into them. So I would say like one of the main concerns a lot of the athletes have is figuring out how to talk directly to their audience and build the successful brand. They don't know exactly how to take it from point A to point B.
Yeah, I know if I was an athlete, and even nowadays, I still know how to take things from point A to point B. So
Mhm.
sometimes I want
And
to
it's a bit difficult. You really have to know like what your product is or what your service is or what your brand is and how to tap into like you have to really just, and a lot of times like that's why I love to help them out, because some of the things that people are interested in, you'd never realize. And a lot of athletes, like, they're interested in like cigars, whiskey, different things, like, that require a really niche audience. And it's just like, how do you learn to tap into that if you might be a casual whiskey drinker or casual cigar smoker, and you maybe want to make your own cigars, just different things, like figuring out how to get from point A to B. And that's why I love what Project Starfield allows me to do. It allows me to tap into really anything, any type of market or product service, whether, they're working on a film or writing something, or whether they're building that small brand or trying to figure out how to set up like an e-commerce store, different things like that. I offer those services to help them figure out how to really just, like, the Project Starfield thing is like, let us be your guide. So I'm just helping them, like guiding them through the process of making their brand successful.
No, that's awesome that you're out here doing those things. Shifting gears just a little bit, what's some of your tips and advices that you have for people that's trying to work in the sports media world?
Definitely. So one of the main things that I always love to say is like, be vocal. So closed mouths don't get fed. That's how I feel. And whenever I want to work with someone or support someone in some capacity, the main thing I have to do is let them know, because they won't know. They won't know. And when you're starting out, it's about being vocal, but being intentional. Like, you never want to come off as like someone who is just looking for the next opportunity. So building those genuine connections, I know that probably gets thrown around a lot, but that is so valuable. Like, that is one of the biggest things. If you're able to get in front of someone, whether it's on LinkedIn or, whatever the situation is, make sure you're intentional about what it is that you're discussing them. No one wants to waste time. So when you're discussing with them, whatever it is that you want from them, or like want them to help you with or want to support them in, you need to be intentional and very clear about what it is that you want. You have to, so say it's like you're looking for an internship. You really have to say, hi Taylor, like, I've followed you throughout your career, or I noticed that you worked here at this time. I'm really interested in learning more about that experience, because that's something that I'm interested in. And I'd like to learn more about maybe how you got into that role. Like, you have to be very poignant about the approach that you take, because a lot of us don't have a lot of time to, you know, take a second and be like, hey, I'm glad you got me on the phone, but what is it that you want? You have to really, take that time that you get with people and use it to your advantage.
Yeah, I think the fact that you just mentioned just building genuine connections, is key to a lot of different things. And you know, it's just super important to do that. It's not just reaching out to people just trying to get what you need for them, but it's just taking the time just to really you maybe get the background on somebody to really just understand what's going on with them,
Mhm.
and just kind of build that genuine relationship with them. Let them know what some of your personality or just some of the things that you're interested in. Let them know, like you said, closed mouth don't get fed. I know. Even, and that goes with in all facets in life. If you don't speak it, if you don't let people know, there are many times where people won't expect things, or they won't either follow through, or won't um just see what you're trying to do. If you don't let people know, you gotta let people know what your intentions are.
Definitely, definitely. And that's really the way to do it. Like, you have to be clear about what it is that you want. I mean, it's just, and especially like starting out in your career, because that's really where I always tell young people too, it's like, you're figuring out what it is that you don't want to do at this age. Like, you don't have to know everything that it is that you want to do. But if you know that there's something that you want to do and you're not comfortable with speaking it, or comfortable with contacting someone who may be in that role, how are you going to get there? Like,
Yeah.
you have to tap into the people are going to be helpful to you.
Yeah. What was that moment for you when you realized like this is what I want to do for the next, X amount of years? Like how'd you come across that particular moment?
So that aha moment. Yeah. So it's interesting. I I've had a lot of aha moments, but one particular one that stands out to me is when I was in college, we had a panel, and one of the people on the panel, his name is Don Napoleon. For some reason, I just instantly felt like very connected with him. I was like, this is like what he was saying was just so powerful to me. He's from the DMV, or he lives in the DMV area now, and he has this brand called Napoleon Complex Project. And the way he spoke to us, he showed us this video, and it was like the most motivating video I saw at the time. And I just knew, I was like, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. Like, it's not gonna be this is for me. Like, I know exactly what I'm doing. I feel comfortable and confident. And I have felt like since that moment that this this is my world, and I have every opportunity to shape what it is that I want to happen as possible. So I once I had that aha moment, I just went for it. I went for everything. I applied for Disney. I went down there and worked there, and that was amazing. During my last week at Disney, I applied for NFL Films, and I put everything into my application, and they called me, and I was shocked. I'm like, you called me? And they said, like, your resume was like super interesting. Of course, we called you. And it was one of the best interviews I've ever had. And from NFL Films, I was connected with people at ESPN Films. And I have just had this unrelenting like, will to keep going, just to press forward, because I don't believe in my mind that I can fail. I'm just very like, just on it. I just know what I want, and I know how to make sure that I put myself on the right path to get it. And that's not to say that things don't work out sometimes, because there's been a lot of no's. Don't think for a second I'm not saying that, but I don't let my no's deter me. I don't let my no's get me down. I continue to just press on, and I understand that certain things are not for me. It doesn't always have to work out the way that I want it to. Sometimes it's bigger than me, and I've learned to come to accept that. And since then, I've just felt so comfortable and confident in my career.
No, I think, I mean, just for me, just talking with you, you sound pretty comfortable and you know your career, you know what you want. And so far, you've every step of the way, you've seen something and you wanted to chase after it. So, kudos to you and just much,
Thank
much
you.
love and respect for that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been fun. I've had a lot of fun in my career, and I've been able to be flexible and just open to anything that life could potentially throw my way. And I've been better for it. I've loved it so much. I've had so much fun doing what it is that I love.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the best thing. Be able to do stuff that you love. What's so tell the audience a little bit about the you're up from broke.
Yes. So, as part of working at ESPN and on 30 for 30s, when I realized that there was athletes on a large scale that had squandered their wealth, I looked around in my personal community and also realized that a lot of my friends and family and just my network did not have any idea how to manage their money. So I created this brand called Up From Broke, and Up From Broke is the way to help young people and, people alike, just people with managing their money, whether it's saving, getting out of debt. One of the things that I always keep going is a savings challenge. So every couple of months, you'll have saved, I think it's 12 weeks. So every 12 weeks, we have a savings challenge running, and it encourages you to save $1,000. So if you're someone who has a lot of debt, I try to do $4,000 a year. I try to teach people how to save up $4,000 or pay off $4,000. And what we do is, like, the first week will be $65, the second week will be $75, the third week will be $90 or something like that, and the fourth week will be $100. And if you can just set aside that much money each week by 12 weeks, you will have saved or paid down $1,000. And that may be a bit uncomfortable at first, but it just teaches you to become aware of where your money is. Because if you keep track of your money in your bank account and actually see it as you're spending it, you'll become more familiar with your money. And I just want people to feel money minded, and I want them to understand that everything is not, we all have student loan debt and credit card debt and all of these other things. So I want people to feel like, I can do this. I can get out of this debt. And I call myself affectionately a financial coach, but really, I just love to help people figure it out.
Look, I'm all about trying to figure things out. So I saw the brand. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely curious. I definitely gotta ask. I gotta ask Taylor about this because uh I'm a little bit financial savvy, so I'm just like I love to just bounce different ideas or just like to love to hear different ideas just because I may be unaware of just other things that you could possibly do. So I'm always down for the next tips and advice for especially financially that's going on.
For sure. And with a lot of young people and just people in general, I always say young people. And when I first started with I'm for Broke, I did want it to be for young people. But then I realized that, everyone could use a little bit of support or, knowledge in the field. So I try to do like during April, there's financial literacy Fridays. And I'll just try to like teach you a word like diversification. Like, what does that mean? Like, if you're someone who's out here, people are telling you you need to have a diverse portfolio if in your retirement. What does that mean? It's like you need to have a portfolio that's made up of a lot of different sources of income or a lot of different sources of stocks or, bonds or a mix of different things. So understanding that is like helpful. It's just like little tidbits of financial information for the general public. I try to make everything a bit digestible and understandable in a way that, everyone can really like look at this and be like, okay, I'm starting today. I'm learning exactly what this means. I'm learning what that little interest rate means on my bank account or whatever the little, just things that will help them and in the future may help them, they might be better for the things that they've learned from Up from Broke. And it's just one of the funnest things I do because I just love to just see people's faces. I've had so many friends and family and people that don't know actually tell me, I paid off my student loans or, whatever. I was just following your Instagram or, I felt motivated by the Twitter account, just different things like that. I'll try to just make sure that I'm tapping into the network and speaking to them in a way where it's digestible and understandable. So that way they can apply these things to their life. It's one of the most rewarding things to do because, it doesn't take much of me to share my knowledge about money.
Yeah, I promise you, there's nothing like seeing someone else succeed, especially if you gave them that either that tips or advice where they saw something from you that motivated them to go do something. There's nothing more like gratifying or satisfying to see someone else to succeed.
Absolutely.
Switching gears a little bit, so I want to kind of talk briefly, or at least go into a little bit about your time when you worked at ESPN. Um, so can you tell the audience like what's the process behind making some of the 30 for 30s? Like how did you go about just doing everything from start to finish?
Yeah, definitely. So, a lot of people, so there's a lot of different films going on at once. A lot of people don't know that. They assume that, if one 30 for 30 is lined up, it's been the only thing that they've been working on for the past X amount of time. But really, things can take a long time. So for The Last Dance, for example, when I was working for ESPN back in 2016, that was when the initial conversations about The Last Dance started. We were trying to figure out how to get Michael Jordan on board with doing The Last Dance. And at the time, he's like, I'm not letting anybody tell my story. So it was like it was ahead of the time because I think The Last Dance ended up coming out in 2019, I believe. So this was like a really slow burn. Like you have to build the relationship. You have to start with the athlete or the athlete's team and build the relationship and say like, hey, we want to tell your story, or we have the perfect producer or director to tell your story. And then it's just kind of like following it along the path and figuring out how to get the story over the line. So one of the things that I would do is I'd work with those outside producers and directors to source the content. So a lot of the archival that you would see inside of the 30 for 30s, I would actually be the one to like go through ESPN's like huge tape library that started back in 1979 and earlier, because there's things that different articles that they have from even before that period and different pieces of content. So but I would go into our library and just pull all those things out so that way they can add those elements to the film. So I'd work like hand in hand with those people. And then we'd also, there's a big emphasis obviously on story. We'd sit down and like brainstorm how we're going to move forward on different projects. And there's a lot of different producers on the team. So you just, it's just like you got a lot of stuff going on at once, but it's about building that initial relationship or contact with the athlete and their team, and then moving the story along. So there'd be shoots all over, and some people don't know that there's actually outside directors. Like all the directors that you see that do 30 for 30s don't necessarily work for the 30 for 30 brand, but those outside directors, they'll be all over America or the world, really just doing their part on a story. And we just kind of like get it in and review it, or do watch downs and add music, all kinds of like really fun stuff. So it was very interesting. But it was like no day short of like chaos. Like we'd have like so much going on at once, and you'd have to figure out kind of just where you fit in and just go for it. So I had the unique opportunity to be able to work on the films and the podcast. So I was a part of the inaugural season of the podcast. I was one of the producers working on that show, and that was very interesting experience because I had never done a podcast before. So I learned a lot on the fly. But how I came to be comfortable with producing podcasts was like, it's producing a documentary with your eyes closed. So I kind of just, I took a back seat and allowed them to like help me learn Pro Tools and all of the, different tools to be able to do a similar job. But it's like, I just cannot see the person that's speaking. I have to be able to tell the story without seeing that person and without leaning on, their body language. Just it's all vocal. It's the stories pushed by music and different things like that, different sound design. So that was a really fun experience because it was something that I had never imagined that I was going to do.
No, that sounds like fun. So I like just hearing the chaos aspect of it, just because like there's something always going on, so there's always something to do, and I don't know. I kind of like the chaos feel to it. So call me
I
crazy,
always
but
say like I thrive in chaos. So I totally agree.
yeah.
I love I love chaos. Like I like when
Mm.
work feels like stressful. I'm cool under pressure. So I'm like, yes, like let's go.
Yeah, like I don't know what it is, but like chaos just makes me feel like, ooh, I gotta get to something done now before something else comes
Hmm.
up. Like it just gave me like that extra push to go do something.
Definitely.
So, yeah, yeah, I like the chaos feel. Has like anyone like with the stories that you did work on, did like anyone had any like issues with like anything that you wrote or did?
No, no. So
Okay.
there's a period of time where, there's a lot of different cuts that you get in. So they'll like a lot of the subjects will be able to watch down cuts sometimes, and the directors will watch down cuts, and then we'll at the 30 for 30 team would watch down cuts. And there's a lot of different cuts in the process. So by the time it gets to the actual premiere, I think everyone is pretty much okayed what's been going on. I know we when I was there, we were working on the OJ doc,
Hmm.
Made in America. So he didn't particularly okay any of that. He couldn't. So, but no, I mean, usually the subjects, like it's just it's their story, and it's just another person telling their story. So
I got you. I got you. I got you. Um, So with that being said, was there like did you have a like a show idea that you wish that you could have kept up or wish you would have done?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Andre Rison and Lisa Left Eye Lopez. I have always wanted to tell that story. I think it's I think that's a story that a lot of people don't know and would be interested in hearing. Their love story has been there's been a lot of documentaries on it, but I want to take a different look at like the life of Andre Rison because I feel like a lot of the documentaries focus primarily on Lisa Left Eye Lopez. So I think their story is very interesting and intriguing.
Okay, okay. I'll have to I'm about to look at that with a different set of lens now to figure out.
Yeah, definitely. That was a an interesting love story there.
Okay.
Very very there's a lot going on, a lot at stake.
Yeah. Okay, okay. Did you you ever have a moment, is this aha moment, like where it was like you look back at something like, yeah, like I did that. Like it's just like kind of like a self flex, like, yeah, I did that.
I think I mean, because the 30 for 30 brand is so big, because NFL is so big, there are moments where I'm just like, wow. Like, like I just like that was, these are my those were my coworkers. Like this is what I did, or like I'll see it come up on like the some of the episodes that I worked on come up on like, ESPN, and I'm like, yeah. Wow. Or like, nothing beats seeing your name in the credits. Like, I don't care who you are, what you've been doing. I feel like everyone that has had a hand in producing something, like when that credit roll comes up, you're like, yep. So there's been a lot of times where I'm just like, I gotta pinch myself. This isn't real.
I'm sure that I know that would be me. I don't know, I get excited where if I even see like my last name and so in the credits, I'm like, oh look, they go maybe one of my family members. But what's one of the most challenging aspects to trying to tell and write a story?
Let's see. So challenging. I would say access. So, uh, you know, stories that involve the main character in a way which you have access to them, that makes the story a great deal easier to produce. So without that access, you're going off of secondhand accounts, maybe firsthand accounts, maybe they witnessed it, but you're kind of just like piecing the story together in a different way. So having that person there to kind of like say like, yeah, when I was playing for, you know, Houston, or when I was on Five Slam and Jamma, this is who we, this is where we'd eat or something like that. And then you go to that restaurant, different things like that. That firsthand account is like really helpful. So when you don't have that access, that's a huge challenge because you're really piecing the pieces together on your own.
Yeah, that I could definitely imagine that being difficult, especially with someone not being there. So you just kind of like, well, I gotta like piece a whole story together.
Mhm.
That could definitely be challenging in itself. But yeah, that we're gonna wrap up our the first part of our podcast with that last question. So now we're gonna go ahead and transition into our game within the game segment where we ask kind of like either or type questions. So my question for you is, are you ready to play?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, okay. So very first question is um chocolate chip cookies or oatmeal raisin?
Ooh. Can I say oatmeal raisin with chocolate chips?
Okay, you can say that. You can say that. You won't. You wouldn't be the first person that said that. So they like the oatmeal with the chocolate chips, right? Is that what you?
Yes.
Okay.
Soft bake. Yeah.
Yes, it has to be
Ooh.
soft. It has to
Mm-hmm.
be soft. We
That's it right there. A
okay,
little
okay.
cinnamon. A good one.
Mm, I'm about to go. I'm about to go look for that type of cookie now. Um, TV shows or movies?
TV shows, series.
What series are you watching?
Ooh. I'm I'm watching I'm rewatching Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Look, okay, so hold up. I gotta flip the hat around now. You so you're not the first person to say that, so don't feel bad for saying that show. But you're the second person, and I knew he was about to say something off the wall, only because of the fact that the last person I asked this question, they stopped and paused just like you did. They was like, "Ooh, like I don't know if I
I
should."
was like, if I wasn't gonna say a sports show, I was like, ooh, it's not sports, it's Real Housewives.
No, but that's okay. It's your answer. Like be authentic. Like if that's your show, that's your show. I'm not knocking it. It just I just knew like you paused and I'm just like, is she about to say it?
Yeah. So Real Housewives of Atlanta, the last season came on and it was like, so then I really had like this burning desire to go back and watch everything from the beginning. So I'm trying to
But
get through like a bunch of seasons of this show. It's good. It's something. It's really something.
does your fiance watches it with you?
He does. So like it's very interesting. Like he's always just like, it's so funny. So like for him, it's just like, what the heck is this? And he like, he thugs it out and just watches it with me and it's fun. Like, he gets to laugh and see like what it is. Cause a lot of the Real Housewives shows are like cult classics. So like there's a lot of different like lingo and different things in culture that come from these shows. Like so now
Mhm.
he gets to like to see firsthand like what Nene Leakes said or did that caused people to be like gone or Kenya gone with the wind fabulous, just like random little like stupid things, but it's just funny laughing and like seeing the source of a lot of these gifs. I always say gifs, but I'll say it
Yeah.
right, gifs on Twitter and everything. So
Yeah, right. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. That reminded me. Have you like ever been watching like a film and whatnot? And since I know you worked on producing, films and podcasts and stuff, you've seen stuff or you've seen edits or you've seen clips or has like you ever watched something like you watch it from a different perspective just because you have that knowledge and background?
oh, I can't watch anything on TV anymore. Are you kidding me? I'll be like there was speaking of Real Housewives, I think I think I'm in season 6 now. So from season 5 to season 6, they upgraded the cameras. And like from season 1 to season 2, they changed. That was when the whole TV industry went from 4x3, which is like a square, but not quite a square, to 16:9.
Yeah,
So when you first watch them on like Hulu, you're looking at the square with the black bars on the side. And then
I
the
hate
second
that.
season, you're watching it 16:9. So there's like little stuff where someone else might just be like, oh, this is, I didn't notice the shift. But I will notice every little thing. I'll see in the background if like someone's a producer. I can like pick up on little things because there's been moments in time where I was on set or something and like one of the I remember one time I was working at NFL Films and we were at a family's house and we had been doing a story about a breast cancer survivor and her story was about how she was just so active in the community and it was really nice and but she was like a really really nice lady and she wanted to offer me food but we were live and I had to just like go into the scene and just act natural like I was supposed to be there in this woman's house eating her pizza with the family and some of the members of the football team, just casual. So like I'll see little things like that when I'm watching the show and I'm like, that person wasn't supposed to be in this shot. I pick up on every little thing. Or like jump cuts. I pick up on edits. Oh, I can't watch anything.
Oh man, I can only imagine. So yeah, when you look back on on our podcast, you'll probably be like, they probably could have done this. They probably could have done this. So I would probably look. I'm gonna just come to you. I'm like, you're gonna be my life coach for doing edits and stuff because I'm
I got you.
okay. Look, that's all I need to hear. I don't even need to explain anything else right now. But man, all right. So what's the here's a tough one for you. So, what would be one of your favorite stories that you either written or covered?
Ooh, not that tough. One of my favorites was the Junior Seau 30 for 30. Called Seau. Junior Seau's story was very close to me. Like I just like I felt so compassionate about his story. And I know when we were like working on the actual doc, Junior Seau's daughter was actually working at ESPN, and I remember like finding that out like while we were considering putting this doc in motion. And I had to like tell my team, I was like, guys, like she works here. Like we have to stop for a second and just like see, how she feels about the fact that like her company might be telling her story. Like, is that something that she's okay with or comfortable with? And I felt so proud of that documentary. I really did like it.
Yeah, Junior Seau was definitely he was like one of my kind of favorite linebackers. I kind of gravitate to, and
Hmm.
just his passing kind of sucked at the time too. Um, but
Definitely.
yeah, but I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to. That's another thing I'm gonna have to go check out is that particular segment that you did on them. So
For
if it's
sure.
available, yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out because I now that I'm doing like edits and stuff, so now I look at things differently. So, but but just it's always nice to be able to look at stuff and be like, yo, I know the person that did that. So it's just kind of
Hmm.
like it's like
Yeah.
it's almost like bragging rights. Like, yeah, I bet you don't know that. Not that they would even care, but I'm like, yeah, I bet you don't know that.
Yeah, that was. There's like a lot of different docs that came out, especially for 30 for 30. It was like a bunch of different ones that came out between I think 2016 and I think as late as like 2019 that I worked on. And yeah, it was really rewarding for sure. I have that same experience. Even like, seeing something that like, one of my coworkers worked on at the time. I'm like, oh yeah, that was so and so. And I'm like, I'm so happy that came out. I remember when this was, you know, getting discussed or whatever. So I feel the same way. That doesn't wear off at all for me. I'm like,
Okay.
I'm so excited.
Okay. Okay. So, what is your favorite sports moment that you've either seen or witnessed?
Hmm. Mhm. Favorite sports moment. Oh, there's so many. I think there we're in Olympics right now, so that's where my brain's going. But seeing Gabby Douglas and Simone Biles in 2012 and 2016, like be as dominant as they were, I think that was pretty incredible to witness that. You had two of like the greatest athletes in the world, and like now you see Simone Biles, who considers herself an old lady because she's an older gymnast and gymnastics does not have the same like you are a pro when you are young and that you are not as active as soon as you hit like the age of like 24. Like that's it's kind of just like you're still a gymnast because it's when you're a gymnast or a cheerleader. I was a cheerleader. You It feels like your body starts to break down quickly as you're doing all of those flips and tricks and throwing people up in the air, whatever the situation is. So when you're doing all of those different tricks, your body really does start to hurt. And at a young age, you start to have to wear braces and different things like that. So Simone Biles, especially, like seeing her continue to be dominant after being active for so long. And she was active even in 2012, but she didn't go to the Olympics that year. So it's just like it's just incredible to like witness that.
That's a good choice. I love Simone Biles. She, she's an incredible gymnastics person as well as, especially as a woman, on and off the court as well. I just love the fact that she walks around with the goat symbol
Oh yeah.
on her
Oh yeah, I
attire.
love it. I'm like, soak it in, say it, because you are. I mean, the Biles is a move. Like, and
Right.
it's just like it's so incredible to see different things like that come about. But like the Biles, like you have moves that are so good and so complex that only you really can do them. Like that just it blows my
Hmm.
mind. And if people aren't bearing witness to that now, like if people don't realize like at this moment that she is the goat. Like she is like I don't know. Like your eyes are closed. No, because she's amazing. Like
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was like one article that came out and said like I don't remember what the case was, but I just remember them saying like, yeah, we don't know how to judge her moves because half the stuff that she's doing we've never seen before, or she's the only one that can actually do it. So how do you even judge this based off everything else?
definitely, definitely. And I find that a lot of black athletes are trailblazers in that way. Like there's a lot of
Hmm.
different times in history where they are so incredible and so dominant and they're so powerful in the moves and different things like that it across even like figure skating everything like people don't know how to receive black women black men when they do these incredible things they're like how do we even measure this how and Simone Biles is like something that's happening before our eyes it's not something from the past that's happening it's like she's literally active right now and the judges are like we don't know if we should even score you because no one else can do that. Like, how do you do that? It's not like she's doing anything wrong. I think it's just incredible that she's doing it. I think it's very interesting to be able to witness something like that as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Um, Another quick question for you. It's not even quick. It may not be quick, but I wanted to know how has like being a woman have impacted your career?
I think I have it's been interesting. Interesting is like my word, interesting and unique. But it has been interesting. I think that in the past couple of years, we've seen the industry change a lot. We've seen women at the forefront of a lot of different, you know, whether it's like companies or campaigns or, I've seen a lot of businesses and fans even rally behind women in a different way. And even though I'm younger, my career started, within the past decade. The beginning of my career looked a lot different than my career does now as far as the landscape for women. So I always like to just let anyone know that, when you find like it's so important to like find a mentor to help you navigate those tough waters because I mean, the sports industry has been male dominated for so long and a lot of people they're open to women but they don't know exactly how to support women in the best way and it seems simple right to support women and be be helpful and just supportive but a lot of people don't really understand that so navigating that like finding a mentor that's able to help you and even just like a network finding a community of women or like building your own community has been very beneficial to me so I have a lot of friends and connections that have helped me like navigate but you'll find that a lot of women are supportive and like I said the industry is becoming a bit more supportive to women than it was when I began my career.
Yeah, I think things are finally really starting to turn in a positive direction for women in the field, especially women of color. So definitely, they're always curious. I always ask that question typically to a lot of different women that come on because they typically have experienced something or went through some type of story in which they, like they was impacted, especially just being a career, or even so, like some of them are trailblazers in what they're doing. Like you tell if
Mhm.
you don't know, you are a trailblazer. So just appreciate
Thank you.
everything that you're currently doing with the Project Starfield, the did I say it right? I think I said it right. Yeah,
Yep,
Project Starfield,
Project
the,
Starfield.
the Up from Broke, just everything, just being a professional consultant in the media space is powerful. So
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's unfortunate to hear that, like everyone has a story. And it is, I mean, I would say that that's true. So that's why it's like it's so good to, as a young woman in the field to like, be able to network outside of your place of employment. So luckily with like social media and different things like that, you're able to connect with other women in the field and they might not be where you are, but they might understand what you're going through. So just being able to like build those genuine connections, those intentional connections, and maybe don't like, you know, say like I'm going through something, I need help, but just kind of say like, hey, I'm starting out my career and, I've been through some tough situations. I'm looking for, maybe avenues of support or, different community groups or, there's a lot of different platforms that women have now in the field to connect with each other and talk about different issues or different things that we've faced. So they're not all public because I'm sure that they'd be like super infiltrated if they were, but just being able to, it's so powerful to be able to reach out to someone and just like say, hey, I'm looking for guidance or support. A lot of the women in the industry know where to point you. So definitely be vocal and transparent about what it is that you're dealing with because no one wants to see you go through that. We will all want the industry to change. So we want you to feel supported as well. Like you gotta just, you know, feel feel confident that you will find refuge somewhere if you are dealing with something that's tough.
that's super key right there. Yeah, let that sizzle. That's gonna be a clip. All right. So last question, going back to the game within the game. The last question for you is, if you had a chance to take over any organization, who would you want to take over?
Ooh, so let's make it a little bit more narrow. So like media or like sports or
It could
like team.
it could be anything.
Hmm.
Your choice. You got the keys. You can go take over.
Hmm. All right. I would take over. There's a lot of things I would take over. But I think, we're in the Olympic season. I would take over the International Olympic Committee. They, with everything that went on with Shakari Richardson,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of like debate about whether or not it was right or wrong. And, the rule was violated. She did take responsibility for it. But I think there's a lot of other. So with the Olympic Committee, like there's a lot of things that are like antiquated, like Caster Semenya, like she was disqualified from being able to contend at the Olympic Committee because, or with the Olympic Committee because she has higher levels of testosterone, but she's still a woman and still should be able to compete. But she's not able to, and it's just because she has higher levels of different things. We all are made up so different. We all have different levels of stuff inside of our body, and she's unfairly disqualified from contention and could potentially be one of the most dominant athletes in the field, and she didn't do anything wrong. Like she was just born and has an exceptional ability to compete. And I just think that, it's just not fair that she's, out of the question.
Yeah, no, that's a good choice. Especially like the whole Shikari Richardson aspect of it, because it did suck to see her disqualified and even just be left off the team when she could have even still competed for the 4x1. So that
Hmm.
alone, I get the fact that she broke a rule. I get it. But man, it still sucks to see your athlete want to like good athletes we had just be left off of especially because of the scenario that was going on.
Definitely, definitely. And it's, you know, there's a lot of like debate about whether or not it's performance enhancing or anything like that. It's
Hmm.
just with, especially like as we move towards acceptance as a country. I know we're not the world, but as we move towards acceptance of marijuana and THC and even CBD, there was a big social media post going around on social media about how a lot of athletes are using CBD. It's like you can smoke CBD, you can apply CBD to your skin and a lotion or an oil. You can eat CBD. There's a lot of different ways that you can take CBD. Well, CBD is derived from cannabis, the same thing as THC. It's not the same thing, but it's derived from the same thing. But states are allowed to use CBD for different usages, but THC is not acceptable. So I think that, if I were to take over, I would have conversations about, um, what it looks like, how we get this to be, how we have this understanding across the board about how we move forward with marijuana or THC or CBD, because it's just not fair that one is acceptable and the other isn't. When the effect, we don't know. We don't know that it's performance enhancing or anything like that. We don't know that. We don't. And based on what I was seeing, a lot of people said that it's not performance enhancing. A lot of athletes did speak out and say that it's not. So, yeah, just taking a look at that, I would use my time now to take a look at the IOC.
I think that's a good choice. But yeah, that concludes our podcast today. But before I let you go, can you go ahead and tell the audience how they can follow you or keep up with your career as you go forward?
Definitely. So I'm on LinkedIn. My name on LinkedIn is Taylor Barfield. So if you want to reach out to me, please reach out to me there. I'd love to connect with you and just talk to you or help you, or whatever the situation is. If you like to follow Up From Broke, it's Up From Broke on Twitter, on Instagram, and Instagram, you'll be able to find the savings challenges. On Twitter, just we like to talk and celebrate your wins and have fun on that platform. So I'd love to connect with you. Please look for me there.
Absolutely. I know I will be giving you a follow and checking in afterwards. So, but yeah,
Definitely.
but Taylor, it was awesome having you on, and we just thank you for hopping on, capturing the game with us today. For those that are listening, please go ahead and continue to like and subscribe to Capturing the Game podcast, whether it's on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, any social media platform. Just look for us, Capturing the Game podcast. So thank you for thank you, Taylor, for your time today, and hopefully you have a nice Sunday dinner.
Thank you so much for having me, Desmond. I look forward to the episode.